Stop reacting immediately. Every emotional reaction you have is information. And most people give that information away for free. Anger, defensiveness, frustration, the need to explain, all of it leaks power. Here is the truth most people refuse to face. Whoever triggers you controls you. That's not an opinion. That's a law of human behavior. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. When you react emotionally, you reveal what matters to you. You reveal your insecurities. You reveal your limits. And the world takes notes. You have a choice. React instinctively, or respond deliberately. That's the key. Think about arguments. The moment someone insults you, questions you, or disrespects you, your body tightens. Your heart rate spikes. Your mouth wants to move fast. Most people react immediately. They raise their voice. They defend themselves. They explain. They escalate. And in that moment, they lose. Because the first person to react is no longer in control of the interaction. They are being led by emotion instead of leading with discipline. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Look at criticism. Someone questions your competence, challenges your decision, dismisses your effort. The emotionally undisciplined person reacts instantly. They justify. They argue. They seek validation. But here's what that reaction actually communicates. I need you to agree with me. I need your approval. I am unsettled. You don't need their permission. The calm person does something different. They pause. They observe. They let the other person talk themselves into a corner. That pause is not hesitation. That pause is power. You have a choice. You always do. Disrespect is the same test. Someone speaks down to you. They test your boundaries. Most people think strength means responding immediately. It doesn't. Immediate reaction is not strength. It's lack of control. The disciplined person delays. They don't reward disrespect with emotional engagement. They don't mirror chaos. Because reacting emotionally tells the other person exactly how to push your buttons next time. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Here's the hard truth. If someone can provoke you with words, they can manipulate you with pressure. If they can control your emotions, they can control your decisions. That's why emotional control is not about being calm all the time. It's about choosing when to act. You don't suppress emotion. You override it. You feel the anger. You feel the impulse. But you don't obey it. That's the difference between adults and children. Between leaders and followers. Between strong minds and reactive ones. It's not about anger. It's about discipline. Here is the behavior shift you must make starting now. When you feel triggered, do nothing. No words. No explanations. No facial reactions. Breathe. Slow down your body before you move your mouth. You have a choice. That pause creates space. That space breaks the emotional chain. And once the chain is broken, you are back in control. This is a skill. And like any skill, it feels uncomfortable at first. Your ego will scream. Your mind will demand you respond. Ignore it. You are training authority. Silence after provocation is not weakness. It is restraint. And restraint is strength. Watch how people react when you don't give them what they expect. Watch how they reveal themselves when you stay still. They talk more. They explain more. They lose composure. And you gain leverage without saying a word. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. This chapter is about one simple rule. Stop reacting immediately. Not forever. Not emotionally numb. Just not on impulse. Delay is power. Control is power. You mastered this, and the world treats you differently. Because people sense when they can't move you. You've learned how emotional reactions cost you leverage. Now it's time to understand what replaces reaction. You stopped reacting. Now you must learn how calm becomes dominance. Replace emotion with control. Most people misunderstand calm. They think calm means passive. They think calm means weak. They think calm means losing. They're wrong. Calm is not the absence of power. Calm is controlled power. Emotion is loud. Control is quiet. And quiet always wins. You have been conditioned to believe that intensity equals strength. That raising your voice proves conviction. That reacting proves confidence. It doesn't. It proves instability. The person who stays calm while others escalate is not losing control. They are taking it. That's the key. In every high-stakes situation, conflict, negotiation, pressure. The calm person sets the tempo. They decide how fast things move. They decide what matters. They decide the outcome. You have a choice. Add emotional noise, or maintain emotional authority. Look at confrontations. One person is heated. The other is calm. Who looks in control? The calm person doesn't interrupt. They don't rush. They don't defend every point. They listen. They observe. They let silence do the work. And silence makes emotional people uncomfortable. Because emotional people need engagement. They need reaction. They need energy to feed on. When you stay calm, you starve them. That's dominance. Calm forces the other person to expose themselves. They talk more. They overexplain. They reveal motives. You don't need their permission to stay composed. You don't need to match their energy. You don't need to prove anything. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. Think about pressure situations, deadlines, arguments, high expectations. Most people panic internally, even if they hide it externally. Their mind races. Their decisions become emotional. The disciplined person slows everything down. They breathe deeper. They speak less. They move deliberately. That slowness creates clarity. You have a choice. Speed up emotionally or slow down strategically. That's the key. Calm is not indifference. Calm is selective engagement. You decide when emotion is useful and when it's destructive. You decide when to speak and when to wait. You decide when to act and when to hold position. That decision-making ability is power. Here is the rule you must adopt. Never let someone else's urgency become your emotional problem. Other people rush because they are uncertain. They escalate because they lack control. They pressure because they want leverage. When you remain calm, you deny them leverage. Calm tells the room, I am not threatened. I am not rushed. I am not reactive. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Calm equals containment. Containment equals strength. This is not natural. This is trained. You practice calm by staying present in discomfort. By allowing silence to exist. By letting tension sit without resolving it emotionally. That discomfort is where most people break. That's why calm is rare. But you don't break. You hold. You have a choice. Next time pressure rises, don't rush to respond. Lower your voice. Slow your movements. Shorten your words. Let others reveal themselves. Calm changes how people treat you. They become cautious. They become respectful. They become uncertain. Because they can't read you. Unreadable people are dangerous. Emotionally disciplined people are powerful. It's not about being liked. It's about being unmovable. You've learned that reacting makes you predictable. You've learned that calm gives you control. But there's a deeper layer you must confront. Your emotions feel real. They feel urgent. They feel justified. But they are not always true. You replaced reaction with calm. Now you must understand why emotions lie under pressure. Your emotions feel real. They feel urgent. They feel justified. But feelings are not facts. That's the truth most people never learn. And it's why they stay controlled by impulse instead of discipline. Emotion is a signal, not a command. That's the key. Under pressure, emotion exaggerates. It magnifies threats. It invents meaning where none exists. Fear tells you something bad will happen. Anger tells you you're being disrespected. Insecurity tells you you're not enough. But none of those emotions are proof. They are reactions. You have a choice. Obey the feeling, or question it. Most people obey. They feel offended, so they attack. They feel afraid, so they retreat. They feel insecure, so they overcompensate. And every time they do, they give emotion authority over action. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Think about anger. Anger feels powerful, but anger narrows your vision. It makes you focus on winning the moment instead of winning long-term. It makes you speak too soon. It makes you show your hand. That's not strength. That's loss of control. Fear works the same way. Fear tells you to avoid discomfort, to delay action, to stay safe. But growth never happens in comfort. Emotion protects the ego, not the future. It's not about feelings. It's about discipline. The disciplined person doesn't deny emotion. They acknowledge it then override it. They say, I feel this, but I don't act on it. I notice this, but I don't obey it. That pause is everything. You have a choice. Most emotional mistakes happen because people confuse intensity with truth. If it feels strong, it must be right. Wrong. Strong emotions often mean weak clarity. Here's how this shows up in real life. Someone criticizes you. You feel attacked. Your mind immediately creates a story. They don't respect me. They're trying to undermine me. That story feels real, but it's unverified. The disciplined mind slows down. It asks, what do I actually know? What evidence do I have? What outcome do I want? That's control. Emotion wants release. Discipline wants results. You don't need their permission to slow down your thinking. You don't need to justify your restraint. You don't need to react to prove strength. It's not about confidence. It's about clarity. Here is the rule you must train into your mind. Never make decisions at the emotional peak. Emotion peaks fast. Wisdom moves slow. When emotion spikes, delay action. Minutes, hours, sometimes days. Delay drains emotion of its power. That's the key. Most regrets come from emotional decisions made too quickly. Words you can't take back. Actions you can't undo. Discipline prevents regret. You have a choice. When you feel overwhelmed, don't label it as truth. Label it as information. Say to yourself, this is a feeling, not a fact. This will pass. I don't act under pressure. Repeat it. Repetition rewires behavior. This is how you train emotional literacy. You name the emotion. You separate it from reality. You choose response instead of reaction. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. When you stop believing every feeling, you become dangerous in the best way. Unpredictable, unshakable, clear. People who can't control their emotions are easy to manipulate. People who question their emotions are hard to move. This chapter is not about suppressing emotion. It's about refusing to be ruled by it. You've learned to stop reacting. You've learned to stay calm. You've learned that feelings are not facts. Now comes the hardest discipline of all. Knowing when to say nothing. You've mastered internal control. Now it's time to master external restraint. Most people talk too much. They explain too much. They reveal too much. And they don't realize every extra word is a loss of power. Silence is not empty. Silence is loaded. That's the key. When you feel the urge to explain yourself, ask why. Is it clarity or insecurity? Is it strategy or emotion? Most explanations are emotional, not necessary, not strategic. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Over-explaining is a signal. It tells people you need to be understood. It tells people you need agreement. It tells people you're unsettled. You don't need their permission. Strong people state. Weak people explain. That's not arrogance. That's discipline. Think about how often you justify your decisions, your boundaries, your choices. Someone questions you, and you rush to clarify, to soften, to convince. But convincing is not leadership. Convincing is compensation. The disciplined person does something different. They state their position. Then they stop talking. That silence creates pressure. And pressure reveals character. People who are insecure fill silence with noise. People who are manipulative fill silence with tactics. People who are emotional fill silence with escalation. You just watch. Silence forces others to expose their motives. It forces them to show their hand. It forces them to speak without control. And every word they add gives you information. You have a choice. Fill the silence or let it work for you. That's the key. Look at disagreements. Most people argue to win emotionally. They interrupt. They pile on points. But arguments are not won by volume. They are won by composure. Silence breaks emotional momentum. When someone attacks verbally and you don't respond immediately, they feel it. They question themselves. They escalate or retreat. Either way, you gain leverage. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Silence equals containment. Containment equals strength. This is why silence feels uncomfortable. Because it removes emotional release. Your ego wants relief. It wants to defend. It wants to correct. But discipline denies the ego what it wants in favor of what works. It's not about being quiet all the time. It's about being selective. You speak when it adds value. You stay silent when it adds pressure. That selectivity is authority. Here is a rule you must internalize. If you don't need to speak, don't. Not everything deserves a response. Not every comment deserves clarification. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Some things correct themselves when you don't interfere. You don't need their validation. You don't need to be liked. You don't need to be understood by everyone. It's not about ego. It's about discipline. Silence also protects you. It keeps your intentions hidden. It keeps your strategy unclear. It keeps your emotional state unreadable. Unreadable people are hard to control. That's the point. When people can't read you, they become cautious. When they become cautious, they respect you. When they respect you, they stop testing you. You have a choice. Next time you feel the urge to explain, pause. Ask, is this necessary? Does this improve my position? Or am I reacting? Most of the time, it's reaction. And reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Silence is not retreat. Silence is restraint. Restraint is strength. You've learned how to control reaction. You've learned how calm dominates. You've learned emotions are not facts. You've learned silence preserves authority. There is only one thing left. Consistency. Because control once means nothing. Control practiced daily changes everything. You've mastered restraint. Now you must train it into habit. Emotional control is not a personality trait. It is not talent. It is not something you were born with. It is trained. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. Because training requires effort, and effort exposes excuses. You have a choice. Train control, or stay reactive. That's the key. Most people wait for the right mood. They wait until they feel calm. They wait until life slows down. That moment never comes. Control is not built when things are easy. It's built when you are triggered, tired, stressed, and uncomfortable. Every trigger is a training representative. Most people waste those reps. They react, they vent, they justify, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. The disciplined person treats daily life like a gym. Every irritation is resistance. Every delay is weight. Every insult is a test. They don't complain. They practice. You don't need their permission to train. You don't need ideal conditions. You don't need motivation. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. Here is how emotional control is actually built. First, pause before response. Always. Even 1 second is enough to break the emotional loop. That pause tells your nervous system you are in charge. You have a choice. Second, control your body before your words. Slow your breathing. Relax your jaw. Lower your shoulders. Your body leads your mind. If your body stays calm, your mind follows. Third, delay action when emotion is high. You don't send the message. You don't make the call. You don't confront immediately. Delay drains emotion of urgency. That's the key. This is not suppression. This is command. Most people think emotional control means never feeling anything. Wrong. You feel everything. You just don't obey everything. It's not about removing emotion. It's about removing emotion's authority. Here's where most people fail. They practice control once, maybe twice. Then they slip and quit. Discipline doesn't care about slips. Discipline cares about return. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. Every time you catch yourself reacting and stop, you win. Every time you stay silent instead of explaining, you win. Every time you choose calm over impulse, you win. Those wins compound. Quietly, slowly, relentlessly. That's how real change happens. You have a choice. Either you let your emotions dictate your behavior, or you dictate your behavior regardless of emotion. One leads to chaos. The other leads to control. Reaction equals exposure. Exposure equals weakness. Discipline equals containment. Containment equals strength. Understand this clearly. People don't respect emotional outbursts. They tolerate them. People respect consistency. They respect restraint. They respect composure under pressure. That respect is earned daily, not announced. You don't tell people you are disciplined. They feel it. They sense it in how you pause, in how you speak less, in how you don't rush to react. That presence changes everything. You become harder to manipulate, harder to provoke, harder to move off your center. That's power. This audiobook has given you the framework. But framework without action is nothing. So here is your final challenge. For the next 7 days, treat every emotional trigger as training. No exceptions. When you feel provoked, pause. When you feel misunderstood, stay silent. When you feel pressure, slow down. You don't need their permission. You don't need validation. You don't need to explain. You have a choice. Control your emotions, or let them control you. One path leads to strength. The other keeps you weak.